We're now going to talk about the ultimate guide to selling your business for maximum value. So what I've attempted to do here is I'm trying to take a complicated process, Johan. So there are literally degrees that you can do in mergers and acquisitions. I've tried to go, okay, what's the 80-20 rule? Exaggerated, Bill. How do I get across the key points, get the key concepts, Denzel, over in, an hour? Okay, so I want to be very clear, Joe. This is not a substitute for legal advice. This is not, oh yeah, just copy that and go and do it. This is trying to give you the edges of the jigsaw puzzle. It's to help give more structure, Seb, for if you choose to go down this path, what lies ahead. So you at least got a sense, a bit like Chris. He wasn't giving you tax advice. He was just making you aware of examples. And if the only outcome from that conversation is, I really need to make sure I get myself skilled up and ask the right questions. Brilliant, worthy outcome. It's not dissimilar here. So here's the process. So I think of selling your business in terms of 4 areas. And in each of these 4 areas, Darren, I'm going to give you 2 kind of blocks of things to think about, Emma. Now, there's nuances inside of there. There's all kinds of ins and outs. And a lot of your asked questions, by the way, that aren't covered by headline bullet points. All right, John? Not covered by the headlines, but okay. But I've tried to hit on the major things so you get how it fits together, so you don't get bamboozled by somebody making it sound so endlessly complicated that you don't know what it means. Okay, there is value in the detail, but at the same point, if you understand the basic points, you can get 80% of the way there with 20% of the knowledge. That's the kind of the idea. So I think there's 4 stages when it comes to selling your business. And the first stage is preparation. 2 kind of key things I want you to think about. First, management accounts. Management accounts. I think that ultimately, if you sell your business, you are trying to sell a going concern. You're trying to sell an asset which adds value. The primary reason that asset adds value is because it gives income. It spits off income. Of course, there are exceptions to that rule, but generally speaking, you've created an asset that produces money, produces profit, produces net income. It's got a benefit to the owner of that asset. The accounts, I've said management accounts, but the broader accounts, and so we can say the statutory accounts, the tax accounts, but the management accounts, it's a reflection of all those activities that go on in that business turn into numbers. Accounting is the language of business. All right, so this tells a story which allows you, in part, to value that asset. Now, it's not the whole thing, John. There's a lot of other elements that aren't summarized in the financial accounts, but in terms of from an 80-20 perspective, it's like, right, I've got a company, here's 5 years trading history, and the profits that have revenues have steadily grown for the last 5 years, and the balance sheet, the current assets and liabilities are X. That is a very solid basis upon which to go, okay, how much is this asset worth? And yet most people, Sonia, accounts are a complete mess. It's absolute carnage, whether that's on the P&L, on the balance sheet. And if you don't understand your own accounts, how the hell do you expect a buyer to understand them? And some go, well, that's what we've got accountants for. Well, I think it's abdication if you could just go, well, my accountant gets it. No, your accountant should get tax. Management accounts are reflective of what goes on with the management of the business. How does it work operationally? It's not a numbers thing, a tax thing. That's an element. That's an obligation that you have, Harry. But it's kind of like the management accounts are reflective of the moving parts of how does the business operate. So if you ask an accountant, you'll get the tax answer. If you ask a tax accountant, he'll give you the tax-related answer to that. He doesn't know that in that particular year you lost a major contract, or you won a major contract, or you integrated this other element, or you opened a new product line. So you need to be dialed in on your management accounts. So first piece is, okay, where are you at with your management accounts? Are you up to speed? Right? You could go to the checklist on early in the workbook that we discussed yesterday, the financial elements. Do you have multiple year history of your statutory accounts? Have you got all the filings? Have you got all the tax returns? Have you got all the VAT returns? Have you got all that in the data room? Have you got a data room with all that information together in one place, collated, documented, indexed, so it's easily accessible? Fine. Do you have the systems, Johan? So stuff is being done consistently, the same way, accurately, timely. And most people, they fall that first hurdle. You go, oh yeah, I've got a great, powerful business. The problem is, nobody else can discern that because your accounts are a mess. That's point one. And then the second point, I'll share both and then we'll kind of go into a little mini exercise on it, is the deal team. Deal team. So what that means is, if you are going to sell your business, I would strongly recommend there are 3 component parts of a deal team, the team that helps you do the deal, that you have to have. Number 1, you need an accountant who's qualified, who's experienced, who knows your business, who's done exit transactions before, okay, that can advise on the tax side of things. Second is you need, who's the second person on your deal team that you need? A lawyer. You need a lawyer that understands the legal ramifications. So we're going to talk about a whole bunch of acronyms here. Sam mentioned some yesterday, James. So you've got sale and purchase agreements, you've got heads of terms, you've got asset transfer agreements, you've got what are the warranties, even inside of the sale and purchase agreement. Well, there's a whole bunch of subset stuff, okay, that will be in legalese. And somehow, Kat, you need to translate that back into English, so you can understand, what does that mean? What does that really mean to me? I mean, I gave you a horror story yesterday of somebody that's kind of getting sued, and just an absolutely shocking deal. Now, I don't know, because ultimately the lawyer will do what you tell them, probably, and anybody can sue anybody for any reason, but it could well be that the lawyer dropped an absolute clanger on the client and overlooked on a couple of points, a couple of line items in the sale and purchase agreement could absolutely cost this person a 7-figure sum. That's entirely possible. So how do you know if you've got a good lawyer? Well, I think it's helpful to have conversed with a lot of lawyers, or to have the third person in your deal team, Seb, which is, I think it's very wise to have somebody with commercial experience, have an advisor, having a consultant. And again, look, even though you could say I've got a vested interest in this comment, I kind of go, great. Well, if it's not me, I'd still say it's true. The best advice I've gotten, lawyers have saved my ass plenty of times, accountants have saved my ass plenty of times, but actually there's no substitute for somebody that's bought and sold multiple companies, that's seen a lot of stuff, that it's not tax specific, it's not legal specific, it's actually, that's not their expertise, it's actually just commercially. How do we structure this thing? How do we negotiate? How do we get over the line? I think having somebody like that in your corner is absolutely essential, because in part, there'll also be a conduit. There'll be a conduit for going, well, how do you know if it's a good lawyer or a good accountant? It's interesting. Because by the way, just because I've said, oh yeah, I think Chris is great, I don't think he's great for some of you, because there's also a personality dynamic that you've got to figure out. Okay? And just because I said he's great, well, who knows? I'm not getting paid by Chris, but for all you know, I could be getting paid by him to go, oh, look at he's great, go and do business with him. That kind of stuff happens all the time. And the only way, so whenever, Billy, whenever somebody tells me that their accountant is great, I go, how do you know? And do you know what the most common answer is? Oh yeah, I've worked with them for 5-10 years. Oh, well, what the hell has that got to do with them being great? If that was true, the oldest drivers would be the best drivers. And I think we can all agree, using driving as a metaphor, the first few years, we didn't have a clue what we were doing. With a bit of experience, we got to a certain level, but would you say the average 80-year-old driver is, twice as good as they were when they were 40 years old? Doubtful. Our skill with a bit of experience comes up and then it plateaus. So I'm going to go, well, how do you know if they're actually a good accountant? And my question really is, how many fights have they been in with HMRC, and what were the outcomes of those fights? If you've been with your accountant 10 years, but you've had multiple, VAT inspections, a whole host of inspections or investigations, whatever's relevant, and the whole thing you were happy was handled robustly and well, I kind of go, okay, fine, I'll buy it. But I'm more likely to buy it when I go, no, this person's got a significant track record, and I know the people because I met them through Mastermind, who's done with them for years, and I know they weren't trying to position that person as, oh yeah, but buy from this person for me. They just told me that their accountant is great, and they told me conversations and how their accountant got them out of a scrape, or how the lawyer got them out of, managed to prevent them from being sued, or a personal guarantee, or an injunction against trading, or whatever. All right. So I think you should get the deal team. And I think they're 3 component parts. I think you've got accountant, I think you've got lawyer, and I think it's some advisor with kind of commercial transaction experience. So before I even start thinking about selling a company, that's not fair. When I start thinking, before I do anything, I kind of go, okay, what has to happen for me to get my accounts in shape, tip-top order? This thing is squeaky clean, and it's accurate, and it's spot on. For the new people in the room, people that join our community, there's about a 50% fatality rate of accountants. I don't mean literally they get killed. I mean they get fired. The relationship dies because they come in this community and they realize that the deviation, the standard deviation or the discrepancy of quality of accountants is vast. So two people can call themselves accountants, but you've got some people that are uber crazy proficient that are absolutely know ins and outs, and there are other people that have not got a Scooby-Doo, and it's almost an insult, or it is an insult to your profession that they're called accountants. True or false? That's a very fair caveat, right? There's a whole bunch of different kinds of doctors. It's like get somebody that's got transaction experience if you're exiting your business. If you have the belief that it's like, oh yeah, they're my accountant, they're really good, that means that they can do all these things when they can't. I won't mention it now because it's relatively obscure, but there was a particular tax relief I had in one of my companies many years ago. And I went to Chris and said, hey, I think I could apply this in this business now. And he was the first to say, like, we don't do that. And he said, now, we're happy to work with whoever you did. He said, who did it before? I said, my old accountants had a division that did that particular bit of advice. And he goes, great. He goes, we're happy to work with them so how it integrates with the company accounts. He said, but we don't do that. But my experience in a lot of cases, a lot of accountants, sadly, will sometimes try and, try and want to know what they're talking about because, of course, it's fees and they have fear that you're going to leave, Cat, and you're going to go elsewhere. So, and that's why it's important to get educated and get a lot of references. So, deal team, management accounts. So my question for you, for a first little reflective exercise in the box on 43 is, I want to know what needs to happen. What needs to happen, i.e. what are the actions that you need to take in order to get your accounts in shape, in order to get the deal team? And it might be as simple as, look, I'm going to book some appointments and I'm going to actually start dating lawyers, accountants, etc. to kind of get a few references. You'll learn a hell of a lot just by talking with them and asking them the same questions. You've got ideas from here, you take it back to your accountant, take it to other accountants as well and go, right, have conversations, build relationships. The first time you want to be talking with your lawyer, David, who to help exit your business shouldn't be when you go, oh, I found somebody that wants to buy my business. Let me go and try and build a relationship with somebody that I've never spoken with before that happens to be billing me at 450 quid an hour or whatever the hell it is, right, for the privilege when I don't know their quirks of their personality. Because you don't know, like, are they really, are they really gentle and warm, or are they direct and to the point? And will they tell it you straight? It's helpful to have all that kind of background. You've got an interaction. It's helpful that I know, but neither my lawyer or my accountant will take offense, because anybody that works with me closely knows that I am very happy to lose my shit and tell you exactly what I think. And it won't surprise you to know that they also don't have an issue with profanity. They don't necessarily swear, but if you're going to work with me, especially closely, to do with large amounts of money, there may be a few blue words that come out of my mouth every minute or so. So all right, well, I don't want to hire a lawyer only to find out that he gets upset. I was going to use the expletive then, because I call him I question his parentage, because I think he's made a mistake on something. I see something you're judging me now. Fine, you've got to figure out the dynamics. So I wanted to have worked with that lawyer and a lot of other different things, or at the very least, John, know that he's done deals for some of my friends of that similar type of legal work before, because that increases my confidence that they're going to do a good job for me. So, 5-minute exercise. Okay, what are the next steps for you? What needs to happen in order for you to start developing relationships with people that could become part of your deal team and to getting your accounts in order? All right, 5 minutes, where we go. Thoughts, comments, questions about preparing your business for exits, finding a deal team, accounts. So the question was, do you want to do the work yourself first before engaging them? Because as soon as the clock ticking, the money rolls. Look, it's your call, because you've probably just summarized perfectly the trade. So I'm going, well, I haven't got a clue. I'm going to get my hand held the whole way, and it's going to cost you more money. But they're going to either do it for you or do it with you. I mean, to a certain degree, they can't do it for you, because when a lawyer or accountant does something for you, as an example, they basically just ask you to send them all the stuff. Now, that means that they then do their bit. Okay, fine. But the source of a lot of that information has to be go and get gathered. And of course, you might leverage your existing team and your employees to go and gather all that information. Yeah, great. Okay. But it is true that if you engage a lawyer, for example, right at the start of the ideas, they'll walk you through the whole thing and they'll charge you every step of the way. Okay, fine. But you could have cut the cost in half or more by just doing some of the steps yourself. Where you fall on that line is going to depend on a combination of your own experience and your own appetite for getting involved in the nitty-gritty details. See, I'm kind of extreme in the opposite direction. So at the moment, it's at the beginning of a process of looking to build my own house. When it comes to building my own house, I am like going, no, I don't want to touch anything. Like, project manage, are you fucking kidding me? It's like, nope. I'm like, I want end-to-end turnkey service. Now that means I'm absolutely going to pay a premium. Hands down, paying a premium. And know it and gratefully pay the premium to have competent, experienced professionals do all the processes. Okay, and then I'm just trying to be really diligent and making sure I choose the right people, the right architect, the right planning consultant, the right every part of the process, making sure I get somebody that's vetted, that I've checked. Yeah, okay, I don't want to do any of it, and I'm going to pay a premium. But I think that'll be worth it because of the opportunity cost of my time. However, if it comes to me on exiting, I'm going, why the fucking hell would I pay for all this stuff to have people tell me a load of stuff that I already know, and basically, and I still squabble, I won't pretend I'm above it. Sometimes I'll squabble with Chris over invoices, like tiny little things, because some of them are like, right, Chris, just to be clear, I wanted you to argue this point, and now basically I've paid you for a call where I kind of tell you my argument. You then tell me to write it down. I write it down and send it to you. You then give it to your team who basically copy and paste it and tidy it up a little bit that you charge me for to then send it to HMRC. I kind of go, this feels extremely inefficient, which is basically just the start of the argument for me trying to get some money off his invoices, right? That's kind of how it goes. But then I would argue there's some validity for that. I'm going to go, well, it's different if they're doing the work, coming up, versus I'm going to go, no, literally, this is literally a copy and paste scenario. Okay, fine. I can already feel the accountant's going, no, I disagree with you, Dan. Yeah, fine. Yeah. All right. But you get the idea. So Derek, and the last thing I would say, so the answer is it depends, as always. And the last thing I would say is, and Sam said it yesterday, in some sense, by being here, you're already doing the work. Over time, you're already building up a lot of the stuff and a lot of the resources and the systems and the processes and the documentation if you do the work. Because I can say it, if you don't do it, it still doesn't help you. But you can already have a lot of the component pieces in place. All right, good. And ironically, that's going to help you even if you don't exit. Because it's bloody helpful to have everything be indexed. All your financial information, all your legal information, the scorecard, the audit that I got you guys to do, the 6 areas, and I've given you kind of the levels. Okay, good. In our shared, we use Google Drive in this business, Google Drive folder, you've got 6 folders with those headings. Inside of those 6 folders are all the subcategories. And you literally can go, all right, and obviously I've got a group of companies, but you can go, right, in the financial folder, you've got all the companies. You click on any one of the companies and it'll go by year. Actually, I can't remember if it does year first and then it does the tax categories all the other way around, but by year and then VAT, corporation tax, statutory accounts, right? It's all there. So yeah, all index, all makes sense. And that's helpful for me, even though I'm not exiting the business. Why? Because if you want something, I can find it in about 3 minutes. Or less than that, actually. I just go, Anne, can you find the, pull down this this corporation tax? All right, good. Yeah, so, well, so I don't necessarily agree with the premise. I mean, it is true to say that you're probably going to have more interaction with your accountant anyway on an ongoing basis, right? Because you've got to file your accounts, corporation tax, VAT, all the relevant different pieces. You're going to have financial, there's probably going to be financial interaction. And with a lawyer, you might go, well, it depends on what your legal needs are. But I think a lot of people neglect the legal relationship. And then when they come to sell, they realize the things that they did set up at the start are woefully inept. Whether it be the shareholders agreement, whether or not it be the terms of business, whether or not all of it, their employment contracts. And of course, it may not all be from the same law firm or whatever, but similar to Claire's point about different types of accountants. But I kind of going, you don't want to wait till you exit to find out that your employment contracts are shit, that your terms of business is terrible, that like your supplier agreements are weak. It's like, yep, all that is going to erode value or prevent the deal from happening. So I kind of going, okay, you might not get it all in the same law firm, but I kind of go, I do want to be building relationships. And there's a bit of a trade-off of going, sometimes I like to take legal stuff to different lawyers and financial stuff, by the way, to get a second opinion, etc. That can be valuable to test the water, etc. But on the other hand, I also like to go quite deep and build lengthy relationships with people. So my status quo is I want deep, long-lasting relationships, but I don't, in this context, different in marriage, but in business context, it's like, no, it's not exclusive. It's like periodically I'm going to go over here and go, right, literally tell me why this accountant's wrong. Or sometimes I'll even do it a little bit covertly and go, listen, I'm not very happy. I'm considering moving. Tell me what you would do differently. Tell me where they're fucking up. And then see if they've got good answers. And if they have, then you've got a choice. You go, oh, crap. Chris hasn't done a very good job. Do I go back and fix it with Chris? Or do I go, oh, actually, shit, I need to pivot. Okay. Does that answer the question? So effectively, I'm in favor of finding reasons. And I could say there's Sonia is in a slightly different context, but what were the clangers financially? What are the clangers legally? I go, people don't invest in legals. Okay. And in the short term, Kwam, that costs you money. In the short term, it costs you money, so people don't like doing it. Oh my God, that's outrageously expensive. It's funny. I was literally bitching just yesterday or the day before about how outrageous a legal bill that I had was and how I refused to pay it. And it was absolutely outrageous. But on the one hand, it's expensive. But the one time when completely against my business lawyer's advice, he wanted me to pay $2,000 for a particular thing. And I was like, no, that's excessive. Don't need it. Fuck off. And that $2,000 ended up costing me 80 a year later. And I'm like, oh, jeez. Which he takes great delight in reminding me of anytime he gives me a quote. I'm like, this is a bit expensive, Mike. And he's like, yeah, okay. Expensive compared to what? 80 grand? I'm like, fuck off. Just, all right. But by the way, it's helpful. And now that doesn't mean this particular bill is like $5,000 and I think it should be about 1,500 quid. So I'm definitely going to go out and get comparable quotes. But it's tricky because it's not necessarily apples and oranges. You give the same brief to two people. One account can go to town to it. Another one gives it just, like flippant kind of, oh yeah, put that guest house in a limited company. So I wish there was an elegant answer, but that's probably the best one that I've got. But I'm in favor of investing and doing small transactions with the lawyers because you get to see how they work and operate. Because they ain't going to be different when all of a sudden you start writing bigger checks, Darren. One reason I love my lawyer, and I refer him to so many of you so often, is because he's always delivered for me. Now, transparently, that's not always been true for all of you. So we go, he takes ages to get back to you. But, well, okay. For me, he's always. If I ring him, he's either answering the phone or he's going to call me back same day, without question. And I go, but I've really invested in that relationship, Andy. I've developed it. So I don't want to wait till I'm selling my business before I start. Any final comments on this one? Okay. I've got a client right now. It's a £4 million business, but it's quite complicated. He's somewhere between 30 and 40 grand, and the deal's not done. And by the way, it doesn't scale proportionally with the size of business. Effectively, it would become a smaller percentage if the business is bigger, but that can get dwarfed by how complex it is, how many contracts need to be reviewed and stuff. So it's not really helpful, but I would say the only real way that you would know is getting quotes. A secondary way is, have you spoken to any friends of yours that have had similar type businesses, sizes, complexity that have sold? How much did they pay for legals? That's probably the best estimate you've got. And a lot of lawyers will give you quotes, and a lot of them will be barefaced lying to you, and it'll be wrong. All right, so that's preparation. Go build some relationships.